Welcome. This day's lesson is for our volunteers, and it's going to be a discussion on character building. We're going to start with Amber.
Good morrow. I'm Amber. My stage name is Amber Ann Be Well, and I'm the apothecary for the kingdom.
Everybody knows. I'm Ro. What's up, guys? I play the Lord High Sheriff, Most Dangerous. I also am developing currently a character, Artemis Aloysius Maxwell Knowsmore. He will be the Lord Chancellor to the crown. We're going to be... Amber's trying to develop her character currently, and they came to me on how I develop my characters, because as many of you know, I'm a character. I'm not going to do it in class form or anything else. It's just talking. Anybody can get very in-depth with a character. I usually recommend to any performer who's getting paid to do this that they learn to develop their characters more as opposed to just their art form. Although a lot of them do not do that. You'll see Renaissance performers all over the nation that don't speak in Ren speak, which is a sort of a southern dialect in our case of Old English. But you can't really speak in Old English all the time. You want to keep it sort of simple because the fairgoers need to be able to understand what you're saying.
Right.
So a lot of times you have very accurate words that would be used in the time period if you're trying to be period accurate, which works really good if you're speaking to other fair performers or volunteers or cast. It works really well when you two are bantering back and forth because it adds to the suspension of reality, if you will, for the fairgoers when they overhear that stuff. When you're speaking to an actual fairgoer, however, you'd want to forego that kind of stuff. You want to keep it sort of simple. And so that they can understand what you're saying. Anyway, being able to speak to the patrons and speaking to fellow cast members are two different ways of speaking. As far as character building, however, you can get as in-depth into it as you would like. One of the books, if you want to get really in-depth, is a book known as The Art of Play. It will give you many things from foibles to which are like little niches that your character has that makes them stand out. But what I've learned in my character development, and by the way, this is just me, I don't have any formal training like a lot of the performers do, but I have been known to put together some pretty interesting characters. The way I do it is, well, before we do what we should do, let's make sure that we cover what we should not.
All right, you were saying what we should not?
And what we should not is stay away from characters that are villainous in nature. Unless you are a very experienced person in this aspect, even if you feel your personality is a bit more standoffish or grumpy or something along that line, you want to stay away from that because it comes across to the patrons as, basically being a bit of a dick. Okay?
It's true. Greg and I have a character who we met at another fair that we had a derogatory slang name for her because she carried her character to the extreme and used the grumpiness of a court lady and the haughty derision. And it didn't make for a good character as far as public interaction and play.
Yeah, you want to stay away from confrontational characters. You want to keep them light and funny. If you are running a villainous character, I recommend for any character, but especially villainous characters, pull from different angles.
Cartoons.
Cartoons are a lot of times you'll have a villain in there, but they're still funny. You know, they're more funny based on their mannerisms and the fact that no matter how villainous they are, they're always foiled. You know, and you know they can have a more snide type attitude, but it's done in a humorous way.
And you know, as the bad guy in a stage setting for interactive theater, you know that he's going to be foiled. Mm-hmm. He's not going to get away with being the bad guy.
Right. So, but until you get some experience under your belt, as far as role-playing that type of character, I'd just veer away from it altogether.
Is there another knot?
Yes. Insults. Insults, just stay away from insults. If you don't know how to do them, once again, the fair goer is there to have a good time. And if you feel you must throw insults based on your character type, throw them at fellow cast members.
Never at a patron.
Never at a patron. They're in hard sales, things like that, demeaning people to get them to buy your products, any of that kind of stuff. It just leaves a bad taste in the customer's mouth, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, we're all out here. Our characters, our volunteers, our patrons. We're all out here to have a wonderful time and to bring the magic of Faire to the population, to the people and the kids, and to allow them a look into a medieval village and allow them some really fun downtime.
Secondly, I would definitely stay away from flirtatious or innuendo style of a character
until you're much better at it.
You're much better at it, because that takes another set of skills and experience to be able to do that, because your humor has to be able to go way over the heads of children while not being offensive to the adults at the same time.
And there are jealous people out there. Women have been known to get jealous when another character says something off color to her. Men have been noted to be upset if they're made to feel belittled.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking to put forth an enjoyable experience for Faire.
And I could cover later on how to actually do those types of things in some other later filming or conversation.
Awesome. All right. Now, on to how to develop a character.
Okay. Developing a character, once again, you can get into it very in depth. Mm-hmm. I do recommend that there are a few select things that you do need to know in order to have your character confidence enough to where you can interact with patrons with the confidence of that character. One of which, your backstory. You know, if you've done any fairs at all, your backstory is always something that you can rely on. However, the majority of the patrons that you come across, they're not in garb. They don't care about your backstory. They care about the actual interaction. So if you learn to interact with those people over a period of time, you'll know that usually the questions and the type of interactions that you have with them are pretty much the same all the time. So developing a character comes into play, because once you're in it, you don't want to break that character. You put on a particular persona, and people will actually come back if you make that persona memorable. They'll come back year after year to see you. And when they discuss a fair, of course, everybody likes the joust and the shows and everything else. But the majority of the times, the most memorable moments are of some roaming cast member that just happened to have some funny stuff or did something with a patron that made them stand out.
Absolutely.
So how do you develop that character? Okay. Well, I pull from many different sources, and the reason why I pull from these sources is because these characters are known throughout our today's society through television, through comic books, through cartoons, things like that. There are particular things you can say and mannerisms that you can do that will automatically tie someone's psyche to that character that they have seen.
Well, sure. It's like if you have somebody that does that mustache turn, you automatically know that that's a villain.
Right, exactly, right. And it's going to place their mind into where they've seen that villain or whatever the case may be, which automatically breaks down barriers between you and the patron. Okay, the best way to pick up mannerisms of your character is to pull from different sources. So, like, you're running a apothecary.
Right.
Have you seen any apothecaries or witches or doctors of the time period in any type of show that you've watched?
I'm sure I have, so I probably need to go back and brush up on that.
Definitely. A lot of times, if you'll go back to those types of things where you've seen them, Game of Thrones, but they don't even have to be in that setting.
Princess Bride.
You're running an apothecary, which is basically a doctor. Go watch Scrubs, the show Scrubs, and find you a character in there and you'll see each one has very particular mannerisms. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you can take from that mannerism and just convert it into a medieval speak.
Okay,
that's all there is to it. So they aid you when you're out and about and you're doing that character. If you find yourself in a situation where, I need to, this person's interacting with me, then you can pull from that character.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an apothecary. It just depends on what type. So first and foremost, you want to decide what type of personality you want to be. Does it want to be bubbly? Does it want to be overprotective? Does it want to be fidgety?
Okay.
Those kind of things. And then when you have decided, okay, well, I can be fidgety or overprotective, or I can be bubbly, overprotective or whatever, then you would seek out different areas where you would have seen a character like that. Once you are watching that character, you can actually sit back and practice mannerisms. Okay? The best way to practice mannerisms at any given time is to do them in the mirror.
Okay.
You don't have to do them in costume, but it's everything from your facial expressions to your body language to all of that kind of stuff. Practice it in the mirror, because what you think you look like and what other people see you as doing is two different animals. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I get called on the carpet for my shrug quite regularly. It's unbecoming a queen, but it's part of my normal mannerisms that I really have to watch and take out of my character.
Yeah, I called you on that one.
Yes, you did. But
because for a queen, that's indecisive.
Exactly, and she needs to be a more powerful character. Because I don't shrug like, who cares, this is what I said. I do more of the dismissive, whatever, which is not queenly. So subsequently, I'm working on my characters as well.
Well, that's the other thing. Once you have a character development, always build on it. Continuously build on it.
Well, sure, because a character is not a flat sheet of paper. It's an all-around thing. And in interactive theater, we really are extremely lucky, because if you're doing a stage production, the only part that you have to deal with is the stage. Mm-hmm. And the people are on the outside. In interactive theater, everything on our site is usable.
That's right.
The landscape, the merchants, the other cast members, and ultimately the guests and visitors.
Oh, those are my favorite.
The customers are my favorite too, because if you can suck them in to the afternoon, the look of enjoyment on their face makes all the work that we do so worthwhile.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Back to character development, however. All right, so you have found a character that you've decided on, whether it be bubbly or, and I know I keep going back to that because I'm trying to keep certain things light.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as an apothecary, and Amber has an easy smile. So as an apothecary, she could pull the bubbly off.
Who is that? Why? See, and then also you have to also see. Sometimes it helps in character development as well. How do people see you? Not necessarily how you see yourself, but how do other people see you? You know, if you can realize how other people see you, and then fine tune and develop that for your character, it will be a lot easier for you to deal with other people because you know they already see you that way.
Okay.
You know, me, for example, my Lord High Sheriff, okay? People already see me as loud, abrasive, flirty, blah, blah, blah. They already see me that way. I know that. It's not necessarily how I see myself, but that's how other people see me. So for me to be able to fine tune that, and then the next thing is to be able to be flourishing. We'll get to that in a second. But once I was able to fine tune that, I could throw that character out there. People already, it's easier for people to just accept that character because that's how they see me already.
So I should ask some people.
Yeah, how do you see me? Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, because you know, that comes into play. You know, I could see you pulling off. I don't even know who the lady is, but for some reason, I just had a vision of you in this apothecary outfit with somebody coming along with a bucket of water or whatever. To help you out, and you having this bippity boppity boop attitude. You know, I don't know why I just had it, but if you can get light in your step, and if there's how you know, the blonde hair, the nice smile, you know, and just you can carry that over. So that would be my input to you. That's how I see your character as a sort of that really fleeting bippity boppity boop body. I don't know who she is. But, you know,
she happens to be the fairy of the Cinderella.
Okay. Whatever, but see, that's what I do. You know, I mean, I just see a bit of an image and I go with that. Okay.
Okay, so for me, when I see myself, I'm a nurse. So when I enter into a patient's room, I want to bring a sense of peace. You know, I want them to know that they're going to be taken care of, and that's one less thing that they have to worry about. You know, I want to heal people and just put their mind at ease, and that's part of what I want to do.
That's wonderful.
That's how you see yourself.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now, so if you take and mix, if you're in the middle of your character development here, so if you take and mix how you see yourself and how other people see you, you should be able to maybe develop a fair character for that. So if you want to give that sense of peace, aside from yourself, who gives you that sense of peace? You personally. Like, is there a family member or a friend that gives you sort of a sense of peace or protection? Or
Well, for me, it's my higher power. You know, the God that I believe in. So I get peace from that.
So if you take along, like, let's see, maybe something like a grandmother or
yeah, I guess you could say my dad or my mom.
Right. Okay. So you would take basically certain mannerisms and adapt those in to a, for example, for that type of person, if you could find on television somebody maybe that portrays those particular aspects, because those are going to be the easiest for you to do. Because
they suit your personality.
Right, being kind and loving. And
Right. That's how you see yourself. That's how other people see you. So if you take those two, you put them together, and you look for those attributes in a TV character. Now that character is going to bring other things to help flesh that out.
Okay.
You see? Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you take, all right, so I want to bring peace, all this and that. And this person sees me this way, this one may see me that way, and you just take different aspects of that and see if you can find a character or two in various locations on TV.
Because a peaceful character, a character that brings peace and caring, is going to have an instant problem with people that bring chaos and loud noise And so she's going to want to shoo them away.
Yeah, I mean, that makes,
Yeah.
but you see how that's sort of doing? The other thing in character development is just basically what we're doing here. You know, brainstorming with other people sometimes will give you that edge of, you know, oh, I didn't think of maybe pulling from here, or I didn't think of maybe developing that aspect. And then the other one is don't be afraid to pull from different mediums. It doesn't have to be TV or cartoons. It could be anywhere. You could literally see a post, or you can see an interaction out in public that you thought was funny or whatever, and you could pull from that interaction to help flesh out your character.
Okay.
Look at Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Especially for your Mistress Bewell, because she's got the whole spoonful of sugar. Everything is peaceful, but she gets her point across well, you know.
Yeah.
So there's other mediums, you're right. It doesn't have to be a medieval person
Yeah.
that you pull from for your character development.
Yeah, I mean, and even at work, you kind of feed off people's spirit, because you kind of know some people you have to be more stern with, and that's just the way that they accept things.
Sure.
And you would be able to develop that into this right here. Okay, so on a Faire site, who would be that person for you?
That I would
that you
have to be more
stern
you.
with. Me?
Yeah,
Okay.
like the high sheriff. You're not going to take well to my little pampering. I'm going to have to be like, no, you need to drink this tea and you need to drink it now.
Right, and you wouldn't speak to a noble that way on most cases, but certain people get away with that shit.
Yeah.
The cook,
The apothecary.
the apothecary, you know what I'm saying? There's certain people that got away with talking to. Another set, who would another set be? Vikings,
Okay.
any of those guys, the Githyanki,
Pirates.
The what?
the not Githyanki, but the Kazaki people.
Oh, the Kazakis? Yes, because they're swordsmen.
Yeah,
they're
swordsmen,
warriors.
They're gruff and all this and that. Easy group for you to be able to,
Yeah.
you know, or you sit down and you know what I mean.
Yeah, you might have to go get Lena, who's the head of the Kazaki, and tell her that, you know, you're attempting to minister to her warriors, but they're not paying attention.
Okay.
And that way you can drag her in.
Okay.
You know, so our volunteers are really lucky that we have other volunteers to play with.
Yeah.
Then also in your character development, as you're roaming around or doing your stuff, you want to utilize your environment as much as possible. That's like she was talking about earlier, the difference between stage performances and basically free theater. Okay, the difference is a lot of stage performers, they go on stage, they put on their act, this is the show, they get off stage, they're no longer that character. Okay. Anyway, they go on, they do their show, and they get off, they're done with their character.
Yeah.
At us, once we get on site, we're in character all day. And with everybody we meet, everywhere you go is a stage. And if you look at that, so in your character development, what kind of things would be stuff that you would play with?
Obviously, the herbs and things. You know, the water bucket cooling people off.
Right. How would you interact with patrons with that, though?
I would see if somebody seems like they're hot, their face is red, you know, and then I would approach them and give them some cool water, you know, on their skin to cool them off. And
Cool.
Hop up and try it with Ro. He's sitting right next to you.
Let me, don't put her on.
Oh, okay.
Another thing you might want to try to have in your
Repertoire.
Yeah, your repertoire, I guess. But in your little kit of stuff might be a fan because it gets hot.
Yeah.
You know, and you can make a bit of a fuss. You know, if you see someone flush. Once again, depending on how your character is developed, also indicates who you are going to be more freely able to play around with. Okay? For example, once again, my Lord High Sheriff character, I have to be very careful with who and what type of interaction I have. Because if I have a couple standing there and I come up and be all flirtatious and drop these innuendos and that kind of stuff, I am liable to upset him in some way. Okay, just the same as if I was to try to downplay his masculinity in some way because he didn't do this or that for his woman or whatever, he was ungentlemanly or whatever.
Well,
I got to stray away from that kind of stuff.
Exactly, and that's always what I try and tell our volunteers is that if you are female, you always cater to the woman in a group. If you're male, always hit the male in the group.
Okay.
Because the Lord High Sheriff, she might be a breathtakingly beautiful woman. But instead of telling her that, he's going to look her Lord up and down and go, well done.
Exactly. Right.
As a woman, instead of going and, even if the guy looks more flushed, you might take her by the elbow, my lady, thou's looking a bit flushed, and set her down and set him down next to her.
Okay.
So you always want to hit your own sex first and foremost in any kind of player interaction with the public.
Okay.
In fleshing out your character, though, little things like fans, the more stuff that you have on, like me, I have a sword plate that I made. Okay, his name is Excalibur. Okay, and ultimately, when I see people eating or whatever, I'll whip my sword plate out.
Yeah.
Feed me. That kind of thing. Just having those types of little bitty things that you can play with, and then develop them. Once again, I highly recommend watching certain shows and things like that help you pick up on stuff. The Princess Bride is a wonderful movie. Have you ever seen it?
Mm-hmm.
I recommend rewatching it as a Faire personnel.
Okay.
As opposed to just watching it, like you don't want to watch it. Watch it, try looking at it through the eyes of being one of the performers there.
Okay.
And you can pick up on all these little bitty things.
A Knight's Tale is another really good one for that.
Knight's Tale. In fact, when I was helping our crier develop his character, that's exactly where I went.
Chaucer and the Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one more thing I'd like to cover before I'm tired of holding this video, and that's an exit line. Because personally, I feel like every volunteer cast player needs a good exit line. You're going to get into situations where the conversation lags, where suddenly you don't have anything to say, or they ask you something you don't have an answer to, or they've said something insulting or horrible to you, and all you need is a way to make a quick getaway without falling out of your character. So I recommend everybody get a good exit line. For years, my exit line was, I've left the baby in the tavern again, away with me. And I'd just turn around and go. It worked for me. Pardon me. But I believe that everybody needs a good go-to exit line. Know it, use it, have it in your pocket, because there is going to come a situation where you're going to wish you had one.
Well, that's what I was saying about in your character development. The majority of the interactions that you have with the patrons are going to fall into pretty basic categories. You got the kind that really want to talk to you. You got the kind that are really, really shy and giggly and really don't. Those are the most fun to play with.
And they're so thrilled that you're taking time with them.
You have the kind that want to debate with you of the accuracy of this or that. And, those people are so droning to deal with.
But they are a guest, and so you have to treat them like a guest.
Well, that, and you also have to pull away. If you know the types that you're dealing with, and just think in your own mind what type of conversations that you're going to have. Here's where you have the benefit as being one of the performers, okay? You have the benefit of sitting down and playing in your mind conversations that could possibly go on. And the ones that, I mean, you've been to Faire a few times. All you have to do is think back of every interaction you've had with a person. So you have the option to be able to sit back and develop lines for those conversations. You've already had that conversation. Every Faire, you're probably going to have that same conversation again with another patron.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and develop, comedy blurbs or an exit strategy or whatever the case may be, and you can go ahead and have those preset. So I recommend an introduction, an exit strategy, and a joke. Some type of joke, preferably using the environment around you. Okay? For example, I use a trap. Where I got it from, don't know. But the thing is there was a root that crossed one of our paths. It was a root about so big, and it just steps across the path. And I would just stand over there by it. And when people were coming by, I wouldn't be paying them any attention or anything, and they'd be in the middle of a conversation, and I would just jump out, trap! Saved your life, my lord. They would jump out of their skin, step over it, everything else, laugh and move on about their way,
But it made their entire Faire day.
Yeah, and those types of things, It doesn't have to be you. The Lord High Sheriff planted that tree and said he did that just for you to have shade, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So having a joke, having a greeting, because the typical greeting is hello, lady, or good morrow, or good anon, whatever the case may be. Add something to that. If you just, my lord, my lady, that is not interactive. That's just sort of a nod as you go by. The more you can develop your character and become comfortable with that character, the more you can interact with the patrons. And ultimately, the more interaction that each of the cast does with the patron, the better the experience is for the patron.
Okay.
For the entire Faire.
And the more fun you end up having.
Right. The more fun it is for the volunteer, and the more fun it is for the Faire as a whole.
Yeah. So like I said, I pull from a lot of different sources. Usually you can go, I tell every Faire goer, or every Faire personnel, watch The Princess Bride. If you've watched it 100 times, watch it again as a Faire, as a Faire person.
As somebody who's trying to check out entrances, exits for characters, little offhanded blurbs to say.
Yeah.
You're an apothecary. Look at where they carry him when he's only mostly dead. As opposed to all wholly dead. There's that apothecary run in The Princess Bride.
Just that saying right there that she just said, so you could pull from that. Oh, my lord, you look only mostly dead.
Well, anybody that's ever seen The Princess Bride is going to immediately know that line. Just like the one about, what is it? My name is Montego Montoya.
My name is Emilio Montoya. You killed my father.
There you go. See, everybody knows the whole thing
right.
In that instance.
And that's why I say pull from a lot of popular aspects.
Okay.
Because if you pull even one or two little lines from that, I had one of my guys walking around behind me the last time I was there doing the coconuts from fucking Monty Python.
Harry Roulier was excellent with them the first year. Yep.
Just doing coconuts behind me like I was on a horse. He would do them behind the patrons after a while too.
It was hilarious. People loved him.
Steve, my lord, he'd be behind them.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised. All of a sudden, patrons are acting like they're riding horses, walking around.
Sure, because they're having a wonderful time.
That's cool.
So once again, in your character development, you have that right there. So hopefully, just get a closing here on this. Do you need to stop or anything? All right. So in closing, character development. Decide what type of personality you want. Okay. Try to stay with something more along the humorous lines of things. Stay away from being a villain or mean or snarky or snide until you get really good at what you're doing. 2, pull from many different aspects. Usually if you pull from cinema, any of the really popular lines, learn how to develop them into your deal. 3, have conversations pre-played in your mind. And of course, they're going to vary. But if you already have them in your mind, you know that you're going to have those types of interactions with people. Go ahead and have those pre-set up, because the person you're having the customer that you're having a conversation with, they haven't had a chance to sit down and pre-think this conversation. So you're going to have a leg up right there. Okay? And then lastly, make sure that you have different, objects and things that you can play with, and know what's going to be around you already. Like, for example, you're at the front gate a lot. You already know what's up there. So think of ways to play with your environment. Okay. And lastly, if you fall out, that's where you use your exit strategy. Get yourself together and try not to fall back out of character, and just have fun with it. If you make an error, no worries. The only person that knows you made an error is you, because the person that's showing up as a customer, as a fair goer, they have no idea that you made the error. So don't hold yourself to too hard of a standard.
Right. They're just happy you are interacting with them.
Right.
Okay.
So.
And that's pretty much lesson 1 for character development.
Outstanding. Thank you both.
Yeah.
There is. I'd like to cover flourish before we are finished for this day.
Yeah, flourish is very, very important. First off, anybody can walk around in garb and have rent speak. Okay? In fact, we encourage the patrons to join in. It helps them immerse in everything that's going on quite a bit better when they're able to do that. However, what's going to set the actual Faire volunteer, the Faire cast, anything else aside, one is going to be to have routines already in place. So if you see anybody doing a routine, you're pretty much assured that that's just not a fair goer. It's actually somebody that works there. But the main one is going to be the flourish of your character. I love villains for flourish, because no matter what you see them in, they always have it. Okay? And even though you should not develop a villain at all to start with, the mannerisms of a villain are always good to pick up on your flourishes. Every move you do is exaggerated.
Well, we're outside on 35 acres. So if you're standing and there's a crowd of 100 people that are moving down the green, without some big arm flourish and some open body stance, people don't stop and watch because they feel like they're eavesdropping. You have to invite them in to your shtick, and you do it with flourish.
With your flourish, and body language is important with any character development. You want to be open a lot. All of your moves, your flourished moves, or whatever the case may be, they don't need to be...
Pull your shirt down.
This number.
You're flashing.
Am I?
Yeah.
You're flourishing.
You're flourishing.
But your flourish needs to be open. If you're like this with your conversation...
Get you standing up, Amber, so that you can run through these with
You
him.
want me to stand?
Sure, you can stand.
You keep putting her on the spot.
I am, and she's going to be okay.
All right. A lot of people, when they're sitting there talking, they stand normal, okay? But as a character in your deal, you're not just going to stand. Like for me, whenever you see me stand, I'm always standing, even if I have my cup. My cup's out and it's pronounced, and this is all part of the character fleshing out.
Okay.
And it allows people with capes, when they go to move, they'll flick it and go,
So I'm gonna want to be like, maybe. Instead of, because normally I'll be, with my arms behind my back.
Right. And when you speak, feel free to speak with a lot more movement and action. Okay.
Sure, because it's not only going to let them pay attention to what you're saying, but it draws the eye of the patron that's walking by, who's now going, ooh, there's something going on over here.
Okay, yeah, you're kind of...
And even if you're playing a character that is all soft and endearing, you still have to be able to do that loudly.
Okay.
So whenever you're speaking to anyone, you want to make sure that you, even if you're only 2 feet from them, 3 feet from them, you want to speak to them like they're 10 feet away.
Okay.
Okay? And then use your languages, And if you had asked, where's Her Majesty? I wouldn't say, oh, she's over there.
Okay.
I'm not, Her Majesty is yond, and just throw it way out, you know what I mean?
Then people are going to be like, whoa, what's going on?
Right, that right there helps with being able to interact with patrons. And even if you're not interacting with the patron, you're interacting with other cast members, it is now something for the patrons to observe.
Yeah.
And as your medicinal self, say you went to him and said, "Where is your Majesty?" How would you do that?
Where is your Majesty?
Well, so that's plus. So you have to remember stations and things like that. So in my case right there, if you're, depending on your character, are you running well, let's start with that. What type of character are you planning on running, personality-wise? If you had to tack a personality on her. Is she loud? Is she quiet? Is she fidgety? Is she bubbly? Is she
Is she hunting a husband? Is she gossipy? Is she flirty?
No. I mean, I'm just more, I don't know, sweet and quiet, but I guess I need to be a little more outgoing.
In that case, it would be something along the lines of like, Lord High Sheriff, where might Her Majesty be? She is late for her her toxin or whatever the hell you give her. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. What do you give her?
Her tonic.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so now go to the Lord High Sheriff and curtsy and ask where Her Majesty is. She is late for her tonic.
Lord High Sheriff, where is your Majesty? She's late for her tonic.
Her Majesty is yond. No, yond. I know not.
Off I go.
Off I go. See? There you go. See, now you have to have that X strategy, because if you didn't, and I said, I know not, and I stand there. Right?
We'll get back to work.
See, so having that exit, because when you talk with the patrons and stuff, it's going to be pretty similar.
Okay.
Okay? And see, you may not even ask me. You could ask a patron. My lord, have thou seen the Majesty?
She is late for her tonic again.
Yeah, okay.
Have you seen His Majesty? His bunions need tending.
And see...